everybody and welcome to the Surface Interval in association with the 2 Minute Foundation. Twinset diving, diving doubles, or just diving with 2 cylinders on your back has its origins way back in the beginnings of scuba diving. Back in the day, cylinders were a lot smaller and they couldn't go to as high a pressure. It was hard to get decent cylinders back then, so to be able to stay underwater for longer, divers would often link 2 or more. They'd often dive with 3 cylinders on their backs and strap them on their backs. So now tanks are available in a whole range of different sizes and working pressures. Then we have a much greater selection today. But we still dive with multiple cylinders and twinned up. But why not just dive like a huge single 24-litre tank instead of twin 12s, or side mount them? Let's look at why twinset diving is awesome. So 2 tanks means twice the gas. That's a fairly easy given one. Divers can only really reduce their breathing rate whilst diving to extend their bottom time so far before they're basically just holding their breath, which is a bit of a no-no. So bringing more than 1 tank just makes sense. Twin tanks has benefits over 2 separate single cylinders that you swap over between dives. Because you're sharing both volumes together when you're breathing from twins, every bar that you breathe is twice as much. Because your 2 tank valves are connected in the middle, you basically breathe from both tanks at the same time. You inflate your BCD from both tanks at the same time. It's all connected. If you have 2 separate dives planned, then you actually end up with more gas when you're diving with twins. The 50 bar that's left in your first tank, if you're diving on singles after dive 1, that's just lost forever when you're diving on a single cylinder. You can't use that. On a twin set, you still have access to that gas on dive 2. You're not leaving it on the boat. You also don't have to faff around between dives, swapping tanks over and doing things in between dives on your surface interval. All you really need to do is just close your tank valves between dives, so it's much easier. If you're diving on 2 cylinders, then you typically have 2 cylinder valves, which means that you need 2 first stage regulators, which is a good thing, I promise. Whilst diving a single cylinder, you have 2 second stages connected to 1 first stage. If one of your second stages fails on a dive, it's not the end of the world because you have your other one. But if your first stage fails, you really need to get to your buddy. On twins, you run 1 second stage off 1 first stage and the other off your second first stage. That way, even if one fails, you still have your second to get you out of trouble. If there is a catastrophic failure on one tank, you can literally switch that one off whilst you're still breathing from the other one. On a single tank, if you want to breathe from that tank after that catastrophic failure, you just have to put up with that leak and kind of breathe around it. But with twins, you can isolate them and minimize any loss of gas. When you're diving a single cylinder on your back, it sits straight down the center of your spine, which if it's negatively buoyant, which in most cases they are, it can kind of make you tip over to one side and maybe be a little bit overbalanced if you lean over. Twin sets can kind of spread that a little bit sideways, so you're a bit more stable in the water. Twin cylinders can't roll around neither. Once you put them down, they tend to stay exactly where you put them, mainly because nobody else is willing to lift them for you, but they won't roll away neither. And if you're thinking, oh, well, if I just dive with 2 separate single tanks, I don't have to sort of lift them both at the same time. Well, that's not as good because the buoyancy of each of those tanks is actually going to change as their pressure drops. So if you breathe one tank down to 50 bar, that one is going to be a little bit lighter in the water than the other, so you'll start to tip over. So it's actually best if you breathe one down a little bit, swap cylinders over, and then breathe that one down a little bit until they're level, and then just continue that for the entire dive. It's far easier to just twin them together and breathe from 1 single second stage for the entire dive. If you're diving twins, then chances are you're diving a backplate and harness setup, which is just objectively better. With 2 tanks, you need greater stability and a different type of lift. You can't just strap 2 tanks to the back of any good old BCD. Well, you can, but it's not really what they're made for. Their buoyancy won't be made for 2 tanks, so it can actually squish the bladder underneath the tanks because they're not sitting in the same profile as one single cylinder, they're outwards. So that can actually limit your maximum buoyancy. But they can also be quite wobbly. Recreational BCDs are typically made from plastic, which bends and twists. 3mm of metal is quite hard to bend, especially stainless steel. And backplate systems are modular, so you can swap out the harness, you can swap out the wing, you can swap out the backplate to make a BCD that works for you. The harness is specifically sized and set up for you, not just a small, medium or large that kind of fits you. It's sized for you, and the D-rings are exactly where you want them to be. And twin sets are a great workout for your legs and your back. If you thought lugging singles around sucked, just wait until you try to relocate a set of twins.
Come and play with us.
That's why all of us twinset divers are just so jacked overall. But twinset divers are often a little bit tougher. Not that single tank divers are weak or anything, but a proper twin diver looks at them and doesn't shy away and think, oh God, not again. Once you're in the water, you're not going to notice the weight, but yeah, a proper twinset diver will go, yeah, come on then, let's strap that on my back and just get it done. So why twins? Why do you think twinset diving is awesome? I mean, I remember years and years ago, well before I was even a diver, watching a program with a scuba diver. They were exploring some kind of cave or something. It was a kids' TV show, and they had twin cylinders on their back. And I remember back then wondering why divers would only take 1 cylinder. Surely everybody would dive with 2 cylinders because surely 2 is better. But don't forget to check out our spring store by clicking on the banner underneath this video and type in the promo code SURFACE15 at the right time for a reward. And of course, look out for the 2 Minute Foundation to see how you can help out and download their Beach Clean app. Thank you for watching, everybody, and of course, safe diving.